And welcome everyone to episode 94 of One Piece at a Time, the One Piece read-through podcast where we read and discuss 5 chapters of the One Piece manga each and every week. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and freelance letterer at Shonen Jump, Brandon Bovia. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm, of course, Brandon Bovia, letterer of manga like Dragon Ball Super and Kaiju number 8 and many, many more. And much like how the Navy ships are looming on the island of Enies Lobby, we are looming on episode 100, it feels like.
We are getting closer.
When you said 94 out there, I was like, oh, right.
I know, right? It is a wild feeling for sure. And, you know, fittingly enough, I have I think a Japanese volume 50 from when I visited Japan long ago in 2004.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know, obviously we have like the movies and stuff now to go in there, but man, it kind of makes sense with our rate that we like every one of our episodes is basically every 2 of our episodes makes up 1 volume of the manga.
Yeah, more or less.
So it's interesting in that way. But we are getting closer to episode 100, and we are getting closer to the end of Enies Lobby.
That is surreal.
Yeah. It feels like we've been covering this for so long. But just exciting all the way. And let's just jump right into it because there's so many good stuff. Chapter 421, Gear 3. And
which already
I mean that you hear that like
excited.
Oh.
Yep.
We haven't really mentioned the other pair ups this time, but there is a detail on this one that I really like with Robin and the koalas, where she's a pool shark. If you look at the scoreboard in the back, she's won every game, and that's why they're all sweating while looking at her.
It almost looks like, it almost looks like they're like gangsters, like they're in the mafia. It's just like, and Robin's just completely toying with them.
Yeah,
I can consider that canon that Robin is the best pool player.
Oh yeah, I would not shock me if she's a pool shark at all. But we begin with the Buster Call, and Enies Lobby is being blown to hell as the giants are struggling to get out of there.
Yeah, and there's an interesting detail on the radio chatter where they're basically like, let nobody escape, you know, raise Enies Lobby to the ground, but we have to keep Nico Robin alive by agreement with Aokiji. Yeah,
the Aokiji is still protecting her.
Yeah, and that kind of plays into like all of the chapters that we're covering in this episode of the podcast, where it's like it adds an interesting wrinkle where they're basically bombing the place to the ground, but they're like, but that part where Nico Robin's at, like we cannot can't touch that.
We need her, it seems like. And they have confirmation that Luffy and his accomplices are about 60 people, so they know to target the Frankie family as well, and the giants. They have all the intel, and it's, oh boy, we are definitely seeing it. And of course, Spandam's still here. Is like, hey, they're passing by the bridges because I'm here. They're not targeting this place because I'm here. So they spare only me. And he's like, his father said the same thing. It's like,
I can totally imagine a situation where Spandine sits down with his son. It's like, all right, son, listen to me now. The Buster Call. They'll protect you.
Yeah.
No.
That's you aren't exempt, and it's like, no.
Yeah, that probably explains why he thinks he's exempt. Is because his dad told him.
Yeah, it makes sense. We also see Robin, I mean, understandably, just uncontrollably shaking from the trauma of it all.
Yeah, seeing a Buster Call again, for the first time in 20 years. Well, ugh.
And it makes you wonder what's going to happen, because we see the members of CP9 except Kumadori all laid out. Because who cares about Kumadori? Knocked out by... No. Oh, that's right. He's not in the Tower of Law. He got knocked into the main city.
Oh, yeah. He got yeeted. That's right.
Oh, gosh.
Yep. Got it.
But then we got Sniper King being carried by Zoro and Sanji. It's like...
it's just a hilarious visual.
It's just kind of like, all my ribs are broken. It's like, all 6 of them. Like, you have more than 6 ribs. You're fine. It's like, all 10 of my ribs are broken.
You got more. That's great.
I'm also a little sad that he's like about to explain the secret of his weapon, Kabuto. I'm like, yeah, I want to know that.
No, I actually want to know that. Where did he get it?
And they shut him up. I'm like, dang it. But of course, Rob Lucci kind of flooded the entryway, and well, Nami and the rest are kind of running away from that, so they kind of have to get away.
Yeah.
The whole area where Lucci and Luffy it's a bit of a tongue twister to say their names together. Their fighting ground is being overflowed, and Lucci's like, there's an upper path here where it's above sea level. We'll be fine to fight here. So you must be worried. You probably want to go help them. And Luffy's like, no, if I'm not taking my eyes off you.
I like this surprisingly sound thinking from Luffy here, where, he's just like, if I leave, you're going to go kill my friends. So, like, while everything else, and it makes sense, like, Luffy's job in the situation is to hold off the most dangerous man.
Yeah.
So that his friends can, do their thing.
Who knows if he can even beat him, but he knows he just has to hold him off to protect them. And that adds an interesting wrinkle and a cool thought process that we get Lucci even saying, you're worthy of being a captain.
Yeah.
It's kind of a buildup we've seen for Luffy over the time. It's like, you need to learn these things of captain. And he is kind of implementing all that.
I think it's cool because none of the other like big villains that he's fought have really like acknowledged Luffy or have like acknowledged his his skills. Like I feel like even down to the wire, folks like Crocodile and Inaru were, always kind of like talking down to him. And of course there's still that aspect with Lucci as well. But I like that Lucci kind of sees where Luffy's coming from and he's just kind of like, yeah, I approve.
Mm-hmm. And we even get that where Luffy's still trying to fight him using Gum Gum Rifle and all that. And we have this new technique with Iron Body, Empty Tree, which is like a counterattack type thing from a fighting game. It was like, oh my gosh, you can counter break. Oh crap.
I like the bit where Luffy like wraps his leg around Lucci. This is really cool.
Yeah, it looks great. And we can see why Lucci's been interested in Luffy this entire time. He's like, oh, I thought I met a man with backbone, but I was wrong. Like I thought you used up your strength with that fuel injection, so you got nothing. And we got his flying finger pistol that can shoot out basically beams of air and like pierce Luffy. Is like, oh god.
It's just one little line, but I feel like it's really illuminating like how Lucci thinks that, I mean, it's a pretty common trope in like shonen manga and stuff where you're like, you have the guy who's so overwhelmingly powerful who's just like, he's just looking for a challenge. And so he's finally found it.
Supposedly, at least somebody that could maybe reach that challenge. So we'll see it. He, very much to reference something else, the Toguro of Toguro. God, I love Yu Yu Hakusho. But Luffy's like, oh, I've got backbone, and let me show you something.
Quite literally.
Yeah. We get Gear 3.
Here's our on-screen appearance.
And I love that we finally know what he's doing with his thumb and biting into it. And I love this. We already got like him speeding up his blood flow thanks to Gear 2. But because of him saying bone blue, it was like, yes, all of him is rubber. And literally what he is doing here, he's not just inflating his arm. He's inflating the bones in his arm and making them still as tough and make the arm of a giant.
I love that panel of his giant arm just like zooming through the panel. And of course, Lucci's just kind of like, cut the cheap tricks and, tries to block it with his iron body.
And it's not enough. Luffy just uses his giant pistol, bursts through the building and the other building.
The scale of it. This is such a rad double page spread in the chapter. Oh man.
What an introduction for Gear 3 and what it's all about. And I like that we got an explanation for this with Luffy sort of figuring out his powers and what he needs to do.
Yeah, this was, I always thought this is kind of like the moment. And of course we got like the explanation of how Gear 2 works in the last episode of the podcast. And it's like Luffy is properly kind of like taking advantage of the fact that his body is rubber. And we are now seeing like the more literal interpretation of that where, it's just kind of like, oh, he can stretch, that's kind of what it's been for the past 400 chapters. But now it's, oh no, like his blood and his heart is rubber. His bones are rubber.
Yeah. His muscles are rubber. Like you don't think about it when you see the stretching, but it is the case.
Yeah.
And it makes it so much more like, It's cool how you saw, I think it was like Crocodile, is when he was like, yeah, I rather than just accept my powers as they are, I work to make them better. And
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up. I had completely forgotten that, like, we had seen that before, where it was like, yeah, that's kind of like the basis of like One Piece fights in general. Like, it is so much more about like the character's creativity and thus Oda's creativity. Like that is always the driving force behind the action, as opposed to just being like, oh, like whose power level is stronger, or like, I don't know, who has more chakra. Or
yeah, yeah, exactly. It makes it so much more fascinating, and it's like, okay, we are ramping up once again to see what we're in for.
Yes.
Oh, good stuff. But time for chapter 422, Rob Lucci, and fun race.
This is a great one.
I love the little mice that are racing for Luffy in the front, and Robin using her arms to actually steer for Chopper. Like, there's a lot of fun.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah, it's so cool what little details they put in. We go to one of the vice admirals. I don't think we know his name, but just a vice admiral. And we actually get some history on Rob Lucci, where 15 years ago in a certain monarchy, pirates captured 500 soldiers. So in exchange for those hostages' lives, the pirates' captain demanded to be made king. So with their soldiers held hostage, the kingdom was helpless and on the verge of giving in to the demands when the world government sent a single boy. That boy infiltrated the hideout, proceeded to kill the 500 soldiers of the kingdom, and then turned his back on the pirates. And so in anger, the pirates showered him with cannonballs, and he just took it all. And when the bombing stopped, he beheaded the pirate captain and ended the standoff by basically killing both sides.
So Rob Lucci's a monster.
Yeah.
That's our backstory.
Yeah, that is our monster. From the age of 13, he's been that powerful. He got these scars on his back from taking that bombardment, which fittingly enough is in the shape of the world government symbol.
Yeah. It's like he was built for this job.
Yeah. So that's
and
when he became an intelligence officer for CP9 and took Dark Justice as his calling. Like, okay, I'm not sure the lives of 500 soldiers is in exchange for one pirate captain is enough, but okay.
You know, I feel like we see this a couple times in this set of chapters in particular, where like, man, you have a lot of the Marine folks are just being treated like fodder. They're just like, oh, 500 guys here, 1,000 guys there, like, whatever. Although I do like the vice admiral is kind of like, it is sort of a silly justification, but he's like, well, okay, Rob Lucci's here, so we don't need to do anything.
Yeah,
basically, he's just like,
exactly.
All right. Yeah, which I mean, I think it is a little bit of an excuse just to kind of let this to keep the story flowing, but like I buy it. You know what? I buy it.
It gives Lucci that much more. Like, because we've gotten very little characterization or backstory or anything like that. Not that we've gotten a lot of backstory for most of the villains, to be honest. It tends to be not necessary. It's like, it's time to learn their tragic backstory. But no, this more serves to be like, this is how terrifying this guy is. And
it's kind of a point of contention in One Piece these days. It's funny that you mentioned that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But the lack of backstory or the overlap?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lack of.
Okay. I mean, we're here in the present.
Yeah, I have my own feelings on that, but I think this is enough. You know,
yeah.
It really is just sort of like
that, where like this is why Crocodile wants to take over the world. We don't need that.
Yeah, and well, I think in a broader sense, like this arc isn't really it like. I don't care who Rob Lucci is. Like this arc is not about.
He is the wall that they need to get past in order to save a friend.
Exactly. Yeah, and of course we have plenty of kind of complex and nuanced villains in One Piece, but I think this story is so much more about Robin and kind of the like how the world government functions in general. That like Lucci is more of a symbol of that than anything.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I mean, he literally has the symbol on his back. So yes,
yeah.
he represents the darker side of the government at this point. So
Yep.
yeah. But yeah, we go to the others where, Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp are all trying to catch up. And then instead they come across the others running from the water. And Zoro tries to cut the wall to try to escape, but I don't think he was going to go anywhere anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't they? They're underground, so they would have been just flooded with water anyway. I don't know what he was trying there.
And we see now that he can cut iron, but he can't cut steel. So very interesting in that aspect. But yeah, the water overtakes him, and that's about it. It's like, oh, that's not good. Also,
right, rip them.
Clever, well, maybe not clever, but choice positioning for Nami.
This is the whole arc ever since she changed outfits.
Yeah, pretty much. But we go back to Lucci, getting punched through the walls by the giant pistol, and he's like, "Oh crap, I'm losing consciousness from this." And I can't
that it hit him that hard, and that like he's bleeding through his mouth.
Yeah, despite an iron body, that is something else. And God, the way Luffy's body just takes the air back, and just like those proportions are so odd.
Yeah, I forgot that this kind of was like kind of the side effect, or not the side effect, but a side effect of Gear 3 of just like because he it's like he can't control it almost.
Yeah,
like he's got all of this air in his bones, and it's just going all over the place.
He can sort of direct it, but after the punch, it's like, well, it goes forward, and then the air gets pushed back, and now it's into his main body, which is I can sort of see that. And Lucci gets lucky, lands on a Navy ship, and
I love that they're like, what is that?
He flew from the bridge.
Giant leopard man. Yeah.
What could have happened there? They're like, all right, who are you? Answer me. And that's when they realize, like, oh crap, that's Lucci. Sorry.
Please don't kill us.
He's like, keep your mouth shut. I'm sick of the noise. They all just cover their mouths. And meanwhile, Luffy's like, all right, Gum Gum Rocket, I'm coming in to fight.
I love that side comment where it's just like, he's fatter than I thought. That's really right, Luffy.
The bone balloon is tough, and then he takes the air from, I guess what we're seeing here is he's taken that air, rather than it being dissipated, it goes throughout his body. So it went to his chest for the Gum Gum balloon, and now he's forcing it through into his legs so he can use the Gum Gum giant axe, which looks freaking amazing.
At this.
And we saw the size of this ship, like compared to the building they were just in, and he demolishes it.
Yeah. This is the bit where it just feels like the fight just escalates. And you kind of have this bit of the back and forth while they're on the ship, and it's just like they're destroying it. It's awesome.
Yeah, we do. Oh my gosh! And we even get to see a form of Lucci we didn't see before. We saw his his leopard man, form. We saw his human form, and we actually get to see his leopard form, where he actually bites into Luffy.
It's an interesting detail I just noticed. He still has the scar on his back when he's in leopard form. Yeah,
the scars are still there. So you can't get away from that. I guess the scar tissue that you have on your body. So interestingly enough, but Luffy's able to move the air again to force Lucci off, and uses his giant whip to take out the mast. And this whole ship is just screwed.
Yeah, look, man, I'm caught up on One Piece. I know what Gear 3 is like. I didn't think I could be impressed by it again, but this seeing its first proper outing it's just I've always preferred Gear 2 to 3, but like this introduction to 3 is really sick. It's great.
Yeah, Gear 3 is pretty awesome. Just seeing how much destructive force he has, and the scale of it is always awesome.
After everything we've been through, it feels like a power fantasy almost, of just seeing Luffy just absolutely demolish marine ships.
Yeah. And this is despite us seeing his buzzsaw attack in that movie.
Yeah, right. Maybe they did make it. No, I'm not gonna. No, don't give it credit.
It's fine. But of course, there's a weakness. The more he increases his power, the slower he becomes, and that's enough for Lucci to kind of get the upper hand again. Which, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, we've seen this a few times where it's like, you've increased your power, but your body mass is going up too. And Lucci's always been very speedy. So not
Yeah.
really going to be, can only do so much when he realizes he can't tank it.
Then this is what I was talking about last week, where it was like, rarely in One Piece do you get like new abilities that just like instantly win the fight. Like we're seeing like Luffy kind of using Gear 3 for the first proper time, and it's still like balanced, and
and it's not a win button.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I really love about this.
Yeah,
and it has technically it has more build up than Gear 2 had, because we saw Luffy, like we saw him when he beat Bluno, and he was like, oh, like I still got something more left, and he put his thumb in his mouth, and we're like, what's that? And then we saw him use it off screen.
Yeah.
On the way to Lucci. So I
it's
feel like
been teased
the
throughout that it wasn't just Gear 2 the entire time, but no, we do have a Gear 3.
Yeah.
And seeing it actually in use is cool, but it also confirms that it's not the end all be all. That it's not going to solve all of his issues.
Yeah, exactly.
But also we see just these vice admirals not caring about their men. Like you were talking about, like how expendable a lot of the Marines are, and it's like, hey, gunners, put vessel number 4 in your sights, fire in 5 seconds, and somebody tries to argue, just shoots him in the leg. It's like
we have 1,000 men on that ship, and it's just like
you need to stop.
Okay.
It's like, no, we're going to kill everybody on that ship if it means stopping the world's most dangerous criminal.
And I mean, at this point, we really shouldn't be surprised, because they called a buster call on their own island.
And they do was like, so okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of a broken record at this point, but you're really like, Oda's really selling the, like, the government has no logic.
No.
Like they have one priority over all else, and they will do anything in their, they'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do have a SBS, and honestly, not too much to say on this one. We have basically confirmation of what we said before, where Frankie himself is Battle Frankie 36. Nice detail that they picked up. And then we get to see Kumadori's mother that he always talks about, who's also an assassin and still alive.
Wow.
All right. He gets his mother's looks. Takes after his mother. All right. Well, time for chapter 423, Mermaid Legend. And, it's been how many chapters since the end of Alabasta, and we still get Vivi cover art.
I like that. Man, anytime I see Vivi, it just puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good time. But we get to the chapter itself, and the ship is gone.
just from like an art perspective, like it's a beautiful. I mean, it's horrifying, but it's beautiful. Like, it's beautifully illustrated. Just seeing all of that beautiful wanton destruction.
Yep.
I don't know, this is sort of this feels like the climax of an action movie. Just things start exploding and the stakes get higher and higher.
Yeah. And Luffy, we see the limits of Luffy's Gear 3, where all the air is forced out of him, and just like, oh God, I'm shrinking, and just it flies him away back into the building. He's like, all right, well, I'm okay. And they seem kind of stupid, but he's like, dang it, Gear 3 is cool and powerful, but the effects are a pain. So we learned that it's like, if he pumps up for a minute, he'll shrink for a minute too. So he has to hide until he's back to normal.
I think it's also handy too, as far as I feel like I'm going out of my way to justify why Luffy has these abilities out of nowhere, but I think it is important that, like, they have drawbacks.
Oh yeah, I mean it's so much more interesting when there's a drawback to a new ability. It's just why a lot of people prefer the Kaioken, because there is a drawback.
Exactly.
Lucci, of course, survives the bombing as well. He's like, it'd be boring if he died from that, so let's go after him. He survived. But instead we go back to the Giants and everybody trying to escape that. And we just get honestly, it's just a little segment. We just like, they're still in trouble. And the Yokozuna is getting some flashbacks. It's honestly kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know where that's going.
I'm not sure either. Spandam is still trying to just be all gloating and whatnot. He's like, he's blown a bit. He's dead. And Frankie's like, you shot your own guys in the process. He's like, hey, that's the power of the Buster Call that I invoked. This is justice. Now hand over Nico, Robin, and I'll overlook your crimes. And why are you protecting her anyway? You're not even a pirate. And why are you willing to do this? And he actually mentions, if you cross us like Tom, you will. And he gets just a rocket punch.
That's
in the
it.
face.
He's like, do not invoke his name.
Yeah. Do not mention Tom.
Yeah. And of course, seeing Spandam get punched in the face will never not be satisfying. But oh man, that is a satisfying punch from Frankie.
I love how the one guy mentions there isn't an inch of your face that isn't swollen.
Look, he got his comeuppance. I feel like everybody got theirs. Like Usopp got his hit in, Robin got her hit in, and now Frankie.
Yeah, Frankie got his. It's nice that they've each had a chance to punch this guy. He draws Funkfried, gives him a plan of take out Robin while her guard's down. And he tries using his elephant chop that Frankie's able to stop just before the blade hits her. Like, it is one of those close calls.
Yep.
And Frankie just points his gun at him, like his built-in gun. It's like, hey, lose the knife nose or you'll get a bullet between the eyes.
Like, I don't know how he's able to just like tame an elephant, but like it's kind of awesome.
And he's able to stop him. He's like, hey, Robin, are the Straw Hats really coming? She's like, I'm sure of it. Then I told you, Spandam, I bet everything on him, and I'm gonna make this happen. And he's like,
I love the speech from Frankie.
Oh, I know. I never thought this day would come. And if I had the strength that day, I would have taken back Mr. Tom without fail. Despite all the stuff they've been up against, the Straw Hats aren't ones that let common sense get in the way. And not one of them hesitates to take on the world for the sake of a comrade. And that's a commitment I can get behind. I've never forgotten Tom.
Bro.
I know, right? Like, just how much he's been impressed by the Straw Hats this entire time. And he's just like, I've never forgotten Tom's death, and every time I've thought of your face, I've thought of a million ways to make him pay, like this. And he just picks up Funkfried and slams him into Spandam, and Spandam's down for good. It's like, thanks to them, I got what I wanted.
Man, that's so good.
It is so satisfying to get this comeuppance that's been so long in the making. We've seen it happen, as you said, happen before, but to see Frankie get that finishing blow,
yeah.
Is very
and then
nice.
I love this from him where he says, "I died once. I don't mind throwing my life away so that the Straw Hats can leave here alive." And then goes back to check in on Robin, and Robin's just like, "I have nothing to be afraid of now because I'm not alone."
Yeah,
it's just my heart.
Yeah, it's like.
Things are different this time.
So freaking much, and I'm so about this. And yeah, unfortunately, Luffy's been found by Lucci. He's like, you have to resign yourself to defeat. There's a price you must pay. And we see he actually has life return,
which is what Kumadori did too, right?
Yeah. So he has everything. He's all the CP9 members rolled into one package.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And he's just playing with Luffy at this point.
Yeah, I love this bit because he uses finger pistol to pin Luffy against the wall. He's still tiny, and then he's like at mid speech. In the end, because of your absurd attack, and then tiny Luffy just like punches him in the nose,
and he gets hit through again. It's like he's ready for his finger pistol spots to finish him off, and Luffy's like, "Come on, I gotta get back to normal." And all of a sudden, before he can even hit, Lucci's like, what the heck? The damage is actually affecting my legs? And Luffy has the chance to actually come back. He's like, my ability's working just fine.
So I don't actually quite understand what happened there. Like, was it just like a delayed effect?
I think it's a delayed effect is the idea. Is like, okay. It's he took more damage than he realized from this. And it's like,
he got lucky.
Yeah. Kind of lucky, but also kind of intentional, where apparently Gear 3 can, really get past those defenses. So,
yep.
Something like that. Time to learn the origin of our chapter title.
I completely forgot.
Where everybody is drowning. It's like, we can't do anything. We can't hold our breaths any longer. They're all blacking out. And all of a sudden somebody says, I'm not going to let you die. And Zoro and all them feel them being pulled. And all the while, Sanji's like, am I dreaming? I must be. Drowning sailors are said to have seen a graceful tail fin slip through their fading consciousness, and they see a vision of beauty. If this is a dream, I hope it never ends. And we see what it actually is, where it turns out Kokoro, our drunk old lady, is actually a mermaid. Although they all call her a Jugon because they see her and they're all
they're just like.
So, did you ever want to see Kokoro with just a bra on? Seashell bra?
No, can't say I did. So I actually did remember this. So I this bit I did see coming, but it is still, I think, kind of masterfully one of those things where it's like Oda really doesn't let anything go to waste. Like, no. There is a reason why Kokoro was here, and it just everybody has that moment to play their part, and from that perspective, I really appreciate that. And it's also a pretty funny gag in its own right.
Yeah, it's a great gag, and it's also it makes sense in another way, because why was she hanging out with a fish man? Well, she's a mermaid.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it all kind of works out. Our SBS this time actually has somebody asking, hey, what did the CP9 members look like as kids? And, okay, they're all adorable.
Yeah, they're all super adorable. And actually, this is actually the beginning of a trend. We will actually, I remember we see a lot more of these, of like Oda getting requests to draw, various sets of characters as kids, or like as super old, or like gender bent or something.
I think he probably sees it as a fun exercise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my favorite has to be Kaku and Caulifla.
Yeah, they're all just adorable.
They're adorable.
Even Jabbra's a little adorable.
Yeah, Jabra. I'd say Jabra's definitely up there. Fukuro, like, always had that zipper mouth. That's a little weird. Bluno is Bluno. Kumadori is Kumadori. Spandam, still want to punch him in the face, even as a kid.
So he's had Funk Freed ever since he was a child.
I guess so.
Yeah.
All right. Sure.
Rich kids and their pet elephants.
I know, right? Spoiled.
Or their pet swords?
Yeah, pet swords that they decide to make into elephants? I don't know. Anyway, chapter 424, Escape Ship. And, hey, we got our next set of chapters. Where Are They Now? Shot 1. And this is what Kanos, Isa, Rocky, and Nola are up to as they're up in Skypiea. That's cool.
It's not... I don't know if I'll ever get tired of like just kind of seeing the old characters again.
Mm-hmm. Although it's weird to see Isa without her hat.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that.
So I'm curious where we're going to go from there. Like, oh, okay, what's Skypiea up to now that we're gone? In the meantime, Frankie and Robin have successfully claimed the ship, the escort ship.
I love Frankie. I can't add anything more to that. He's just a gem.
Yeah. It's the tongue out, the evil face, the glasses. It's so cool.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, as they finish claiming it, he hears something. And it's like we see Kokoro jump out of the water, Free Willy style.
Just that reaction over is yowza. It's so funny.
And we're back to the Giants and the Frankie family and all of them, and they're like, all right. We're out of the main portion. We're almost out of there. We're almost home free. We're going to escape. And 3 warships are waiting for them at the other end.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
And what's interesting here is that before this, we had seen all the men panicking because the train was full and they didn't have a conductor. And like, what do we do about this? And I got to say, I did not expect some of these ships to actually save their men.
Yeah, I feel like it is sort of an interesting dichotomy, I guess, because we saw earlier with the other vice admiral who was just like, kill them all, basically. So I feel like the way that Oda depicts the Marines, it really does feel like we've seen before, kind of like you're pursuing your own definition of justice, and but maybe they have a little bit too much freedom.
Yeah, it really is just. It really depends on the captain or the Navy personnel you're working for.
Yeah, I guess that really goes to show. Oh God, what was his name? The old man who was on the tracks who fought Zoro.
Oh yeah, the skull guy.
Yeah, or just, oh God, his name's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah,
but like the way that he was loved by his like officers, More sold by that now, having seen what some of the other vice admirals are like.
At least saving their own men.
Yeah. Or I feel like if you're like a young Marine, just like whether you live or die feels like the lottery. Just like based on whoever like you get paired with.
But he's still being thorough, where he's like, hey, check their unit, post, and Navy code and picture. Like he's being like, check every form of identification. But he's still letting go aboard.
Yeah, they were like, oh, thank God, I thought they were going to destroy us with the island. So they're like, okay, these guys actually care about us.
But they see the giants and all the Galila and the Frankie family members, and it's like, well, we're screwed. And they're like, basically, they're all those pirates that we get informed that they've been all rounded up. So it's like, all right, continue with the destruction, and just more and more is being taken out. And I have to assume that maybe those Marine guys might have picked up Kumadori and brought him with them.
I could see that. Yeah.
Don't know what's going to happen to the others who do not.
Yeah, I was going to say they're all knocked out and just getting bombed.
Yeah, we get back to the escort ship where everybody is on board now and trying to spit out water. And he's like, it can only be called a miracle. Must have been a pretty bad shock. They were all half dead, so they didn't swallow much water. It's like, it's like, what could have shocked him half to death? And he's just like, you.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Kokoro, puts on some pants, not a shirt.
Well, I love, she's sort of like, I can't believe that you thought folks would do this. Like in mid sentence, Frankie's like, put some clothes on.
Yeah. And she's like, huh, maybe this guy really will. And it just, actually makes Robin smile. And they're all waking up, coughing out the water, being like, hey, is everybody all right? And it's like, it's real. Mermaids, but mermaids don't really exist. And that's funny because we actually seen a mermaid before this.
No, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, this is not our first mermaid, which I think is also clever for Oda to like, yes, they're considered a myth, but hey, we do have mermaids. And I forget what her name is, but there she is, hanging out with Hachi.
Yeah.
And I love how Sanji can't take it.
Yeah, no, he's breaking down. Where he's just like, she still hasn't said she's a mermaid. Don't give up on the dream.
I'm an ice fish mermaid. No, I protest. Mermaids are more,
fist just pounding the ground. Just he can't bring himself to say it. He says mermaids are more, more.
But in Sanji's, Usopp's like, I've never heard of a mermaid with feet. It's like, oh, well, at age 30, at the prime of a mermaid's life, her tail fin splits in two, so she can live on land. Mermaids are a mysterious species. And is this the first we've seen her feet? I think so. I feel like they've been in shoes up to this point. So
yeah,
I guess her feet are just always like that.
Yeah, who knows?
Huh. I don't know. But it's like, hey, if you go to Fishman Island someday, you'll understand what it's all about. And then they just try to say, like, oh yeah, they say when a cat lives 100 years, its tail splits in two and becomes a monster. And you're like,
a cat monster. So, oh yes, I see.
It's like, don't call me a monster. But of course, they thank her. And Chopper wakes up. Sanji notices Robin, and he goes in for a hug, but he gets pushed away by Chopper and Nami, who hug Robin.
I look all back together again. The crew. It makes me so happy.
It took long enough, but it finally happened.
Yeah.
And I love that even Chimney doesn't know that she was a mermaid. He's like, I thought it was strange that you had fins and scales.
It's like, didn't think anything about that. Although honestly, that feels very childlike too. To just kind of accept it.
Yeah, I was like, whatever. It's just odd.
Yeah.
But Chopper's still feeling the effects of his monster form. He's like, oh, I can't move all of a sudden.
Yeah. Speaking of downsides to your power-ups.
Mm-hmm. And they look out and they see what the attack of the Enos lobby is already like. And it's just like, it is just, nothing is being left behind at all. And Frankie explains to them as like, there was an order handed down not to kill Nico Robin. So that's why they're not firing here. But yeah, once they've leveled Enos lobby, they'll be here for her. And it's like, oh, we're not in great shape to do this.
Yeah, I was gonna say they've escaped sort of, but now they're surrounded.
Yeah, they've saved Robin. They have the means to escape, but Luffy is still fighting Lucci. Even Zora's like, yeah, that guy is nothing to laugh at. We got to be careful and just trust in Luffy. the biggest storm is yet to come. It's like, oh, we are not out of the water yet.
Yeah, I kind of like this as like this feels like a justification of a kind of a common shonen trope where you're just like, all right, we have to leave, let's leave the 1v1 to that guy. Let's all watch them fight, and we can't help because of reasons, but this reason actually makes sense.
I mean, they all had their own fights, and they are all beat up.
They're all not like they'd be much help anyway. But
yeah, they are not in the greatest of shape, and Sanji's trying to apologize to Frankie about his buddies. Like, oh, they'll be fine. They'll find a way to escape. And
about that,
we see that, and we get a few panels where it's like, well, bye, and they just all of them get bombarded by the cannons, and we do see one thing though of Paulie picking up a transponder snail, saying he's going to get info on the Straw Hats, but that's all we see is just that bombardment with them getting blasted. It's not looking so good. But we have officially, I believe, reached our final portion of this fight between Luffy and Lucci, because Luffy's like, yeah, this is the end. I am not going to turn off Gear 2 until I've beaten you. And it's like, oh, you're going to burn yourself out. I don't know what will happen, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And God, that panel of the final panel of the chapter of Luffy activating Gear 2 again, it just, the shading on it just looks awesome.
Yeah.
Again, I'm such a fanboy for Gear 2, but
I think he's ready to lose all of his moisture. Like he's burning through his water and his blood. It's like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
As for the SBS, we have more people realizing that Zoro's attack names were all puns.
Yep. I was going to point this out, but I figure we'll get an explanation on it eventually.
Yeah. Also, Oda says that Santa does exist, so that's good to know. And most interestingly,
I laughed out loud at this.
Aren't you ever going to draw Luffy's father? And and he's like, oh, his father? I already drew him. He'll be in the next volume. Look forward to
it. What? Spoilers.
Yeah, I know, spoilers. I mean, I guess technically he was already in Shonen Jump, but still.
Yeah, I guess because of publishing, God, I want to say, I don't remember. I feel like when it comes to volumes in Japan, they're something like maybe 8 to 10 chapters ahead in terms of like the magazine versus the volumes. Mm-hmm. Probably a little more than that, honestly.
Probably.
So yeah, for people reading the volumes right now in 2006, you like the identity has been revealed.
Yeah.
So I guess he's just kind of like, yeah, whatever, man.
We'll get to that. We have to wait.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I found it so funny that he's just
it's really funny. Because
yeah,
if you know,
like,
you know.
If you know, you know. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. Final chapter of the set, 425, Bridge of Mortal Kombat.
What a rad chapter title.
Yeah, I know.
Very fitting, too.
Very. And hey, we get to see what Wiper and the Shondians are up to. Just hanging out, having sandwiches. Looks like they're trying to establish a base of operations.
Yeah, they're rebuilding. Yeah, I guess that makes sense since they have the
Vars now.
They have the Vars now. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, all works out. So that's cool. Also, am I wrong? Did Wiper get a new tattoo? I don't think he had the ship wheel.
I don't think so either. Yeah,
he might have gotten that to commemorate meeting the crew.
Yeah, I'd have to double check that, but that makes some kind of sense.
That's a fun detail. I like that. Anyway, Buster Call is still happening. It's the things are getting blown up really good.
I feel like setting the tone of this final battle.
I mean, we had the apocalypse against Neru, and we're getting a version of that here with the endless volleys. And Luffy can't just rely on his rubber powers on this one. He had to step up his game. He can't just use his base abilities and be like, oh, I'm not affected by electricity. No, he had to fight harder for this one. And just the showdown between the two of them, as you see like Luffy's steaming foot and Lucci's like palm like transform into the leopard form. It's like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And they're all set to go. They'll leave as soon as Luffy gets there, and they're just sort of looking out over, waiting. And God, Sniper King always looks cool. There's something about the cloak and the mask, and when he looks down like that, there's something cool about it.
And the way that, because Oda just like, he hides all of the detail just in like pure black ink, so it makes for a really interesting silhouette.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
Obviously, they still have another problem. There's one warship for every one of us that's there, so they're they could launch but getting out of there is actually kind of impossible. And that's what,
I think Zoro could take at least 2.
maybe.
Yeah. Not enough to cover for everybody else, though.
No. But then they hear from the transponder snail. Reporting from the northwest outside the main gate, the extraction of Navy men is complete, and they confirm the presence of roughly 50 pirates, including the giants, at the main gate. And Frankie's like, it's Zombies gang. They escaped. I wasn't worried at all. You can kill them, but they won't die. And that's when we hear the bombing has wiped them out. They're all dead. Nothing on the main island could have survived the attack. There are no survivors. And that just shocks Frankie to his core.
And that shot of just the entire island on fire surrounded by ships is just incredible.
Really just shows you the power of it, and it just, everything. The courthouse, the Tower of Law, the undersea passage, everything's been destroyed. And how the other members of CP9 get out of this, I have no idea. But I do have a theory.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have an indication on how they got away, because we very pointedly say, like, I'm going to check. We're getting pointed at by guns. Paulie's like, we're getting pointed at by guns. I'm going to take this transponder snail and see how the Straw Hats are doing. No, I think he's false reporting. At least their deaths.
I can totally believe that now. I didn't really pick up on that, but like that's not something that you just put in there for nothing.
Absolutely. I don't remember how they get out of this situation. Yeah, I'll be honest. Like with them surrounded, I have no idea how they survive this.
Yeah, it's been too long. I don't remember.
And we'll have to see. But that's why I feel comfortable in making this prediction, because I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, we get everybody sort of remembering the Frankie family, the shipwrights, Oimo and Kashi, Yokozuna, Sodom and Gomorrah. Everybody in these groups lost somebody, and it's like,
they're all dead.
Yeah, it's rough. And we get Robin being like, people can't be seen on a map without any emotion. They're just erasing one small island from the world map. That's what a Buster Call is.
I will simply point out keep this in mind.
Okay.
This line feels important.
It seems like it. They've repeated it a few times. So
yeah. And I mean that's really like the Buster Call is sort of just like a show of the government's power of just like they can wipe any island off the map if they so choose, which I do feel like is kind of, it's funny that this whole conflict is about ancient weapons and being able to destroy the world when the world government has enough power on their own to completely decimate, any particular
a very good point
location that they choose. Yeah. I won't be relevant for a while, but I think this is important. It's an important point.
It makes me think, with you bringing that up, is like, it makes it seem like there are people out there that can survive, or at least counter a Buster Call and stop this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I don't know. I have no idea on that one. But Frankie, of course, is stunned by this, but he also is like emboldened. It's like, hey, Straw Hat, your friends are waiting. I'm not going to let you die too. Get back here.
He's the last one.
Yep. And we're just into the fight, and it's straight up just Gear 2 versus Lucci's natural abilities, and
just awesome. This, I mean, God, the fight's been going on for so long, but like I'm not even sick of it. Like,
and it's so cool too, because Lucci's like coming in, and Luffy just like puts out a hand and catches him. Catches his fist, stops his fist, counters his attack, but Lucci's able to like stop that with his elbow, and then Luffy uses Jet Bullet to like counteract, whereas somehow he's able to use Jet Bullet again with his other fist that was already catching Lucci's fist. Like, it's incredible. And he just is constantly hitting with Jet Pistol.
I think that's a really important thing too. Like we mentioned earlier, or Lucci's is basically like, well, Gear 3 makes you powerful, but it's slow. So it makes sense that like, okay, yeah, Luffy's gonna have to go back to Gear 2 just to keep up with Lucci's speed. Yeah,
it's the only way to do it. It's like you got a speed formation, and you've got a giant formation. Each of them has their drawbacks, because as we said, I believe Luffy is literally burning up blood.
Yeah, he's dying.
But Lucci has even more abilities. Looks like Luffy's getting ready for a Gum Gum Bazooka against him, but Lucci counters him because he's like, hey, here's what happens when the 6 powers are taken to their extreme. our strongest technique, 6 power supreme, 6 king pistol, which I wanted to call sex pistol when I saw it. Sex pistols and all that. But
yeah. The pose itself is awesome. The way that it's just like 2 fists kind of like rounding out each other, and the way that Oda draws it, it's almost like it's like shaking Luffy.
And the other interesting thing here I've just noticed about the artwork for Lucci, when he did his life return, he bulked down in order to become faster. I was like, realizing that because we saw him as this hulking leopard man for a long time.
I noticed that, but I forgot to mention it because I was too busy thinking like, oh yeah, Kumadori did that.
Yeah, that was what I was stuck on, because this is the first I really oh yeah, he's not as big as before, which is maybe why I don't remember him being that huge on that first.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I'm so used to this is the part of the fight that sticks out in my memory more because it's the end, it's the climax and all of that, and so and maybe just in terms of the art in general for One Piece and sort of the extended media, the anime promo art, whatever. I feel like you see Lucci more often in this life return slimmed down form. So when you see him transform for the first time, you're just like, oh, good gravy, he's massive.
He is huge.
So, yeah,
and yeah, this hits Luffy hard, and we even get a comparison point where he's like, oh man, it's like the impact dials on Sky Island, but way more powerful.
Which is already oh god.
It's like, Luffy never got hit by a reject dial, so are we to assume it's the power of a reject dial?
Ah, yeah.
I don't know, but
that's possible.
Yeah, Luffy's somehow still able to escape the Tempest Kick victory bird. But and Frankie's just like, man, Lucci is strong, and he's like, if it wasn't for Straw Hat, some of us might have died. And we get everybody sort of talking about Luffy, where Chopper's like, yeah, I think Luffy knew from the start that we have to fight Lucci himself, and it's like he has those animal instincts. It's like he just knew the biggest threat that he had to take on, like nobody else really could. And now all the ships are taking position around the Bridge of Hesitation. And it's time for that final volley while this whole fight's going on. And
oh man,
that's where we end. We're still in the middle of the fight. The Marines are closing in. All we can do is wait.
Yeah, I do love. I missed this gag the first time with Usopp's, talking about Luffy. He won't die, will he? And Zoro's like, "Are you stupid?" A little bit of levity to break up how serious this chapter was.
A little bit, but man, you could definitely see the toll the fight's taken on the two of them, where they had those lines over their eyes for both Lucci and Luffy.
Yeah, this is maybe the best fight in the manga so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to
has that intensity
compete.
That because it's not wasted. We've had them show down for a while, sort of test their abilities, but it's not like a round 1, round 2, round 3 situation like we got with Crocodile or Nehru trying to escape. It's a drag out fight where they're just evenly matched, kind of. Not something you typically see with Luffy. It's nice to see him being pushed.
Yeah, no, seriously, yeah, it really feels like this is the we are seeing Luffy and really the whole Straw Hat crew just kind of pushed to the next level. So I love this fight. I love this arc. Can't wait to read more.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't either. We're so close. But with that, I believe we've said all we've wanted to say about chapters 421 to 425. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find more of my ramblings and stream VODs over at BitNerd Games on YouTube or BitNerd with an underscore at the end on Twitter. And Brandon, where can everyone find you at?
I'm at Brandon Bovia on Twitter, talking about anime, manga, games, and my job. I think by the time by the time this podcast goes live, I think a new chapter of Dragon Ball will be out. We are closely approaching the end of the superhero movie, so maybe we'll be in new content after that.
Hallelujah.
Certainly we got a little bit more left, but the end is in sight for sure.
Well, that's good. Thank goodness. And hey, if you'd like to help us out more, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/Derek Bittner. That's DERRICKBITNER to listen to the next episode ad-free 3 days early. And make sure to return next time as we discuss chapters 426 to 430 of One Piece. So until then, my friends, bye.
Remember to take life one piece at a time.
If I'm dying, and this is just a dream, then I don't want to wake up.
I'm swimming as fast as this tail will let me! None of you are gonna die on my watch!